Hello, everyone, and welcome to another virtual session of Revenue Management Forum, or RMF as we call it. My name is Rakesh Nair, and I am a member of the RMF team and the host for today's session. I know for sure that we have a lot of attendees today who have been part of previous RMF sessions as well. However, for the people who have joined us for the first time, I would like to share the thought behind RMF. So we have been propagating the need and importance of a forum for professionals to come together and discuss various aspects related to revenue management for hotels. For this, we have successfully launched the Revenue Management Forum in 2015, starting with Pune, and have subsequently taken these events to Mumbai and Delhi over the last few years. Starting in 2020, we went virtual with the events due to the pandemic situation. And with the conditions turning back to normal, this probably might be the last virtual session. Hopefully, fingers crossed. If you're interested to understand further about RMF, you may visit our website, rmfforum.co.in. The website also has thought-provoking videos from our past events, as well as some interesting blogs about revenue management. In our last event, we gathered insightful information and discussed about room revenue and other aspects like HR, F&B, education, and training as a part of our collective effort to restart. This time around, we want to focus on technology and how that can be used to alleviate the hotel and hospitality business. As you know, the topic for today is revenue foresight and innovative technology. And this would be a panel discussion with few industry experts and would be moderated by my friend and another RMF team member, Karan Chawla. However, before we start, I would like to highlight some ground rules for the session. You may use the Q&A button available on the top right-hand side of your screen to ask questions or share your comments. In case you have a question for any specific panelist, then you may mention their name against the question and Karan can direct it to the respective panelist. We would try our best to include all the questions, but in case we are not able to pick up any questions due to time constraints, then we will try and get feedback from the panelists and share it with you offline. In case you are sharing any post on social media about this event, then you may use hashtag RMF2K22. This is a live session and a recorded version of this event will be available for all of you and also for who have registered for this event. You might already know our esteemed panelists for today, but let me formally introduce them. Our first panelist for today is Anupriya Ghosh, who is the Senior Director Revenue Strategy at the Leela Palaces Hotels and Resorts. She has a decade of focused revenue management strategy experience. In her current role, Anupriya is responsible for building and driving the overall revenue management strategy for the brand. She works closely with all hotel revenue managers and guide and assist them in driving the corporate revenue strategy to optimize the company's channel delivery and revenue yield as it navigates the challenges for the immediate future brings. Prior to joining the Leela, she worked in revenue leadership roles with brands including Taj Hotels, Starwood, and Marriott International. Then we have Kamesh Shukla, who is Executive Vice President Commercial for APAC and MEA at RateGain. Kamesh has 17 years of diverse industry expertise with progressive leadership roles in sales and business development for some of the leading hospitality, travel, and technology brands. An active speaker at various international conferences, seminars for the hospitality and technology industry across Asia Pacific and Africa. Kamesh is also a member of HSMAI board as well. Moving on, we have CS Ram with us. Ram serves as Vice President, Hotel Revenue Optimization for South Asia, Middle East, Africa, and Australasia at Preferred Hotels and Resorts, charged with helping the brand's members hotelize maximize the effectiveness of their online distribution channels and optimize revenue through better revenue strategies. In this position, he also guides member hotels on e-marketing, data interpretation, and pricing strategies along with MIS, which help them make informed business decisions. Prior to joining Preferred Hotels and Resorts, Ram served as Assistant Vice President of e-marketing for the Oberoi Group, responsible for the group's digital marketing strategy with a focus on maximizing e-commerce revenues. Ram serves on the HSMI Revenue Advisory Board and the HSMI India Chapter Board. Our last panelist for today's session is Mathew, who is the Regional Solutions Engineer for Asia Pacific for IDEAS. He has over 15 years of experience in providing revenue management consultancy and technical advice to hoteliers across the globe. At Ideas, Murphy has been engaged in various roles over the years, from data analytics, client relations, client experience, and client success to business strategy. His current focus is to empower hoteliers with effortless, efficient, and successful revenue culture by aligning the hotel business practices, system capabilities, and strategic vision seamlessly. Before Ideas, he worked for Hyatt International with extensive experience in hotel operations and management. A very warm welcome to all the panelists, and without wasting any more time, let me hand over the baton to my colleague Karan for yet another interesting and thought-provoking session. So Karan, over to you.
Thank you, Rakesh. So, yep, like you said, without any further ado, let's just jump straight in. And with that, let me get Kamesh on the hot seat in the spotlight right there. Uh, Kamesh, we've spoken a lot about technology and how disruptive it's been over the years. Uh, I know where your answer would go with this probably, but yes, do you feel that technology will dictate who comes ahead and faster from a recovery standpoint, given now it's pretty much the theme of recovery that we're talking about, right?
Absolutely. And, I think we've seen that over the last 2 years, how digitally evolved we became as travelers ourselves. Just come to think of the traveler's perspective, that's actually got the traveler a lot more aware. And there's a lot more that's happening on the technology side. So technology is not just about, moving ahead or moving forward or recovering. It's also helping hyper personalize because, there's been multiple touch points on the evolved traveler's perspective. There's a lot more ingredients and components that have gone into data points to stay closest to that evolved traveler. There's a lot more that it has also done to bring multiple departments in a hotel also together. So come to think of the utility, because everyone's aim is to bring that traveler, convert them to a guest and bring them back. That's where technology has played, right from data to so much of content that's out there to attract them, to appeal to them, and even win their trust to bring them to your property. So it's a lot more that's gone into in the omni hyper connected world today. So it brings everyone together and it brings you closest to the traveler as they evolve, in a simple statement here.
Absolutely. So yeah. So what I gather, it's pretty much breaking down the silos, right?
Yeah.
It's making keeping the silos, it's individualist, but then bringing them all together so you can make a story out of data. And yes, at the center of it is the guest experience, is the guest at the end of it, right? You can't have recovery without the guest experience in the equation. And having said that, I'll move on to Anupriya. Anupriya, from a hotel standpoint and with your experience, okay, how are you striking a balance between automation and the guest experience altogether?
Thanks, Karan, for that question. But before answering that, I would love to thank you for the wonderful introduction, and thank you so much for having me here at the forum. Privileged to get this opportunity to speak today here. Now, quickly coming back to your question, I think I'll kind of take a very strong word that was just used a couple of minutes back, which is evolved. So if we start from there and we actually see post-pandemic, our guest demography had evolved a lot. We have moved to a newer generation. So largely the segments have shifted towards a newer generation, which is very used to doing things faster. Like if you see our buying behaviors have moved to online, and the new generation before even it kind of chooses what product it wants, the next question to in their mind is when does it gets delivered? Is it 2 days or is it today? Or so things have to move really fast. And that gets me to the question that you've asked, that is the acceptance of this whole new digital check-in, check-out, which really ensures that our business model works at the same pace or at the same speed what this new emerging segment actually really wants. And I also feel that it works for even the hospitality industry, because there are three things how it works in their benefit. One is that it helps them to enhance their loyalty, because if you have to really utilize and leverage on technology, you eventually have to do it through an app, and that's how you kind of expand your base. It drives direct bookings. There are so many opportunities at different touch points that it gets you to do that, and also improve staff's efficiency. So in my opinion, we have come a long way, and the future is definitely going to be digital and technology driven services at our hotels.
Absolutely. And I like the three things that you brought about, right? You spoke about loyalty, you spoke about direct connect, and you also spoke about uh, labor, right, in terms of employee centric aspect as well. So I'm going to keep those aside for now because I will definitely touch base on those. Those are some interesting topics and I don't want to let go of those. Uh, and yes, around the evolving aspect that you brought about, right? So I'm now going to move to Ram. I know, and Ram will definitely have a say on when it's technology and evolving, right? So how is technology really solving the issue of guest identification, right, from check-in all the way to marketing objective, right? Because it's agile. Today's customer is very agile. It's not what they were a couple of even half a decade ago, right? So how do you think technology is really helping us here solve that issue?
Yeah, thanks. Thank you so much for the question. And first of all, again, thanks a lot for calling me back for this forum. And it's great to have Kamesh and Anu, seasoned experts along with on this panel. So, yep, brilliant question. And I mean, let me try to maybe answer your question by taking one department at a time. I mean, we are in a technology first era, right? And I think there's no way we can escape technology today. It's a question of adapting to it. I think if you look at how does technology help, uh, looking at marketing as a first step point, because in the top of the funnel in any guest search, it is marketing out there, right? So technology helps me with behavioral targeting, identify which kind of persona I need to be targeting, who is booking the hotels at any point of time. Technology helps us with geo targeting. There are different source markets. Source markets have completely changed in the last 24 months or so for us. So technology helps us with geo targeting out there, helps us to kind of understand what kind of platforms are customer looking at. Are they using desktop? Are they using mobile? Are they using iOS, Android? Further targeting of the guests out there, and showcase the right deal at the right channel at the right time, which will help us to maximize conversion. If you look at website, again, technology helps me with understanding what the guest preferences are by looking at the user path out there, by understanding using behavior out there. Personalized real-time content technology helps us big time today, and real-time content is all the more important because travel conditions are still fluid. It's not as fluid as what it was maybe 6-8 months back, where things were changing every day, but we are still in a situation where things could change. And of course, loyalty and upselling, like Anu mentioned out there. Uh, Pre-arrival CRM, you just can't survive without a CRM out there, right? To contact and upsell at pre-arrival stages. Pre-check-in tools, Anu just spoke about it. And lastly, of course, post-stay. Technology is a great way to reach out to the customer post-stay and turn them into brand ambassadors, who continue to give you some free marketing mileage with their experiences out there. So I think that's exactly where technology plays and helps you identify customers.
Absolutely. And I think now it's time to coin a new definition of revenue management. At least my textbook definition of revenue management from my time was the right price to the right guest at the right time. Whereas now it's the right price to the right guest on the right platform, on the right geolocation at the right time, right? And the right product as well. So I think we need somebody
Whoever
to
said revenue management was easy.
absolutely. So and there's pretty much technology entwined in all of this, right? So keeping in with the theme on technology right now, I'll move to Murphy. Murphy being on the technological side, right? What's the technology innovation, the next big thing, right? The big ticket industry thing that they're waiting to happen or in the pipeline to coming out?
Right, so very tricky question, right? But first, let me begin by thank you. Thank you for having me here, and thank you for all who've joined in today as well. Great thoughts already from Kamesh, Anu, and Ram as well. So let me just chip into the question that you checked upon, Karan. You call me the technology guy, and I think that's where maybe I would start with, right? The earlier part of my
career, or let's say the professional life has been with the hotels, right? So I always say this: you cannot take the hotelier out of me, and I think that goes true with everyone on the call today as well. So if you ask about technology, right, there'll be a lot of things, jargons that will be put out in the market about blockchain, cryptocurrency, AI, ML, right? Everybody's just throwing it out there, saying that we've got AIs, MLs, and so on and so forth. But it's the hotelier, which I say, which comes out from, within me and tells me that it's the fundamentals which will still hold true when you think about the next big ticket item, right? When I speak about fundamentals, right, what does it really impact for a hotelier? It's the cost and the profit, right? And everything under it, right? Invariably, that is how it goes towards. So when I moved out of the hotel industry and into technology, one of the terms that I had started hearing about at that point of time, it doesn't necessarily say how long I've been in the industry, but it was more about the total revenue optimization, right? Now there's a bigger twist to it, right? It's about not the guest. It's purely about what is the guest spending power within the hotel that he comes in. Right? It's also about the costs involved in getting the guest to your hotel. Right. So when we talk about the cost, it's not just about bringing in the cost, but also about the different spend that the hotel or the guest is having at your hotel. There's a relationship in between, let's say, the profitability associated with different spends, right? So he may be spending a few dollars for your rooms versus a few dollars for your F&B and spa. The profit margin in each of these items is going to be significantly different from one another, and that is where I say that the cost and the profit come into a large play here as far as the next big ticket item is concerned, because these are the tangible elements. If you realize. These are the ones which are really going to impact your top line and bottom line, right? When you talk about cost, it's about the channel, like how Ram, were positioned. It's the acquisition cost and so on and so forth. How many nights are they going to stay? That will decide whether you need to service the room once, twice, depending upon the level of your hospitality as well, and the different profits that you're going to get through the different verticals that you have within your hotels as well. So considering all of that under the roof, right, is one element, which is the price, right? So you need to then you may call it whatever you want to call it, customized pricing, attribute-based pricing, or personalized pricing. By the end of the day, you need to understand, is the guest coming in paying a price which is most of their wallet? That means that they would end up spending very few dollars or very few rupees in the rest of the services available at the hotel. Whereas if you come up with a much optimum price, which also protects the wallet size of your guest, you ensure that he or she is going to end up spending a much more revenue at your particular property, right? So that is where I see the total profit optimization comes into play. So it's not even the total room optimization, but the total profit optimization, which is at a larger play here, right? And we've heard this many times, and I keep saying this as well, that not all business is good for you, right? And likewise, not all guest is good for you, right? We speak about Atiti Deva. You need to choose which is the guest which will be really profitable for you, and that's where I think the next big ticket item is about total profit optimization, irrespective of whether you're a lean hotel or whether you're one of those full service upmarket very luxurious hotel as well.
Those are some really interesting points there. Thank you, Murphy. So I think that takes the edge of total revenue management that we've spoken for a lot of years to come to profit management and bottom line and top line, right? It's not just looking at all ancillary revenues, but it's also looking at, okay, how much money do I take off or make off this guest eventually, and then yeah, is he a perfect fit for him to come through or no? And yeah, it's a good thing that yes, technology can help us really break down and take a call and say yes, a full rated bar may give me a full ADR, but no, I'll probably take someone who takes an advance purchase, pays off his credit card bill, and is ready to spend in my hotel, because eventually I'll make much more money than the full rated bar, because he yet has to clear his credit card bill last moment. So that's like a whole fundamental thought change that needs to happen. And with that, let's circle back into one of the points that Anupriya had brought up about the labor piece and the employee piece, and I moved to Kamesh, right? So Kamesh, technology, Murphy spoke about top line, bottom line. How do you think the technology is really helping us address the labor constraints here, right? There's a lot of automation happening. So how are they helping us here?
There's a lot, man. That's a great question, Karan, and thanks for this. So there's a lot, many ways. So actually, in a way, it's complementing. It's also upskilling the existing employees at the same time, because once they get exposed to the new ways or integrated tech stack, of course, they also upskill their own exposure and probably technology. First is, we've always spoken and we've seen how touchless it became over the last 2 years and how seamless it became over the last 2 years, and it will continue to evolve from the guest point of view. From the organization's point of view, of course, the data that brings all the departments together to act upon what you mentioned about total profit maximization, which is actually the key catalyst to this is the upskill that trick technology brings to the existing team members. So of course, I mean, now we're talking about multi-skilled roles. We're also talking about exposure for, say, a revenue with, of course, working closely with marketing and thinking commercial at the same time. Similarly, for sales, it's also been online sales. It's also been distribution in a way which technology has given exposure to. So, of course, all of this stitched together is leading the path to evolution here.
Super. So all are on pretty much on the path to evolution here, right, with technology. But and I'll move to Ram for this one. So, right, Ram, how can one use technology if everyone's pretty much using the technology? How can they use technology to their leverage to set themselves as a differentiator in the market then, right? If you've got all 10 chains, 10 competitors doing the same thing, using the same data, how can one leverage technology to be a differentiator or stand out amongst that race?
Thanks, Kamesh. I mean, Kamesh and Anu had some great points on how technology helps us at hotels, especially with labor, etc. And I think I'll start off with that particular point before I move on to others. I think technology makes it easier for hotels, especially in today's time when I think the industry is facing an attrition period, right, with people moving away from jobs. I think ensuring that you have a complete tech stack kind of ensures that you can transition faster between team members. Simple example, if you have an interface in place, okay, the person coming in finds it easier to manage the entire distribution out there. If a revenue management system is in place, at least the strategy of the hotel doesn't go for a toss. There is some consistency that is happening out there when there are two different thought points happening. But I think the first and foremost things when you look at the 10 different brands competing in the same marketplace, I think we are in a situation where we are continuously rethinking and readapting our strategy because the market conditions are changing really fast, and technology helps us to adapt much faster to these changing conditions, especially turn out a go-to-market strategy much more faster than trying to do that the manual way. Technology also helps to build confidence and trust for guests as well as the team members. I mean, if you have to look at a very simple example, hey, you know what, having a price comparison widget on your website, that's technology, right? You're building in customer confidence, the customer that, look, you get the same price on my website, which is going to be on par or cheaper than your OTAs, or review widgets on your booking engine. Again, that is incorporating technology on your booking engine, building confidence in the hotel that they are choosing. Coming in from an independent set of hotels, there are hotels where you don't have a Marriott or a Starwood brand sitting for some of them. Another way that technology can help hotels differentiate or stand out is, use IP-based pricing, like the CRSs. Some of the CRSs, the ones at least that we use, helps you to do IP-based pricing and hopefully beat the OTAs at their own games at some point of time. In-house tech is, of course, great for guests as well as for team members out there. In-house tech can be used to deliver much more excellent services. I mean, we can all see with QR codes, no touch menus, etc. coming in, how you can order online without actually interfacing too much, and these get delivered much faster. Forget the 5-star hotels of the world. Even the QSR restaurant, quick service standalone restaurants are incorporating this, right? And lastly, I think from a pure payment technology point of view, which today is becoming extremely critical, right? I think technology plays a great role in ensuring that it's not just booking that is done, but it's also cash in the bank, which is coming in faster, which is very important for all of us.
Absolutely. And so that takes a lot and talks about a lot on the market condition and the operational feasibility, right? And where technology is really helping us hone those. And then Kamesh spoke about helping employees sharpen their skills with the technology. So let's move back around to the guest experience bit, right? And to Anupriya. So this works on both ends, right? From a client guest perspective as well as from an employee perspective is the acceptance of the digital room key, right? You spoke about this earlier on, and the end-to-end mobile check-ins and the kiosks. So how are they shaping up the entire experience that comes through the door on both sides of the counter, right?
Yeah, I think, I don't know, how did you read my mind that I was trying to answer this question into two parts? One is external and the other one is internal enhancement of experience. But before just coming to that question, I think you had put up a very interesting question minutes back, saying that when everybody is using the same technology, when everybody has the tool, then how do you define who wins? So there were two sentences that came to my mind at that point, which I would want to share, which we, quite often talk about in our own internal meetings. I think it's honestly all about fastest finger first. It's all about who reads the radar first, who is more proactive compared to being reactive, and how does all this technology that we've been talking so much, we kind of put that in a simple format, not a very complicated one, and how does a number dances in front of your eyes to tell you the story for the strategy that you need to implement. So I think these are some of the key things that today, especially the revenue or the top line leaders need to look into, not on a weekly or a daily basis, but I think multiple number of times each day, so that you are the one to kind of, press the button first and gain most out of it. Okay, now
Absolutely.
coming
So
to
just so yeah,
yeah.
just so yeah, so it pretty much the technology brings you 90% of the way is what I'll take away from there. But it's that human differentiator that would really make the difference across the platform, right? As to who reads it first, understands it first, and implements it first,
Of
right?
course.
Absolutely. No,
Yes.
that's
Yes,
very
of
valid,
course.
right?
Absolutely.
You may have a Ferrari in your garage, but you're not going to win a race unless you don't have a good driver, right? Eventually, it comes down to that. So, yep. And now, yes, moving on to the digital key, right? You were saying.
Yes, so I think you asked me a question about enhancement of experience using technology, and I'll take it from you where you said that, how do you kind of divide it into enhancement of experience, both for external as well as for your internal associates. So I think external, I have seen, and I would like to quote this by an example, what we have been doing in the past couple of months. So we came out with this new, something which is called as a WhatsApp butler, which basically engages with you throughout your customer journey, which means not only at arrival but before arrival, and it's one-stop point for a guest to engage with even after he's done with his stay for his billing or any other things that he wants to sort out. I think gone are the days where guest experience enhancement definition was that somebody needs to be around you in form of a butler, which is like just 2 feet or 1 feet, and he needs to shadow you and he needs to be there to take care of your needs. I mean, gone are those days. I don't really think people do need that. What they really need is an easy option, where they can get quick responses and the things could be sorted out for them, and their needs preferences could be gauged, so that the next stay at the next hotel is ready as per that. Now coming to internal employees, again, an example came to our mind, and what we really did, leveraging on technology during the pandemic days, is that we launched a new HRMS solution, which was called as Leela. What this really helps is that when you know your associates, half of them are working from home, some of them are in hotels, etc. It gets everything together and keeps you connected to the organization, irrespective wherever you are. I mean, you don't need to be there at the location to punch in your attendance. I mean, gone are those days where you really need a biometric or something. I mean, I could be traveling tomorrow to Bangalore or Udaipur. I mean, and that does not need me to fill up a manual Excel or something to, actually count my presence, something like that. So, plus, also gone are the days where, performance management recognition is only over emails. It could be through an app. Why not? Today we are talking about technology. Everything could be done on an app, like for guests, for employees as well. And I think these are some few things which I had seen, like in the current company, where, if you leverage technology, can not only enhance, your guest experiences, but also your associates engagement and how well they are connected to the organization on what's going around.
Absolutely. So technology is pretty much helping both, right? The internal and the external guest. It's being a boon, but at the same time, there's also a part where it's a bane, right? Because there are multiple challenges that would involve the security and the privacy of data, along with the whole digital check-in solution, right? So what are your thoughts on that, Anupriya? Having the experience that you all have already implemented there, both in and external wise. So any challenges that you all have come across that you've seen that have been worked upon or that need to be worked upon in the future to come?
So, what I foresee is challenges in these kind of like digital mobile keys, check-in, checkout could be only which is related to hackers, especially related to mobile devices, identity thefts, etc. But then again, it depends what is the size or the quantum or the nature of the hotel that you are running. Like, it cannot be one size that fits all, and accordingly, initiatives could be taken to avoid those kind of security glitches. Like, for example, you can limit contactless check-in, check-out to only the loyal guest. I mean, whom you know are established guests, and not giving it to the newcomers to be really secure. You can develop a certain threshold of revenue that could be booked and could be utilized and paid for through this contactless thing. You could have notification and alerts set up in case if there are some profile changes that is happening, in this whole app. So there are things and ways, but again, it just depends on what is the nature of business that you're running, what segment of hotels are you running, and what is the quantum. So, everything has got a pro and a con. But I think when we talk about technology and about all these things that we spoke about a couple of minutes back, uh, no con or challenge is so big that it cannot be sorted for.
Yep, it's probably the pros outweigh the cons eventually.
Correct.
Or the way the term that I use very often is lesser of the two evils. That's how I would position it. So and circling back on the recovery piece, right? And we spoke about the guest experience. Now moving back to the recovery, and I'll move on to Kamesh, right? Kamesh, so with the recovery on, okay, what are the insight-led analytics, artificial intelligence, and machine learning opportunities that may help improve the entire guest experience, right?
I think just come to think of the traveler's journey. I think number one aspect that anyone should consider is what are those touch points. So of course, number one comes data, right? And that's leading you to know them, anticipate them, and of course find them. So the knowing, finding, anticipating comes from data. Now we've seen. I mean, like Ram clearly mentioned, 6 months back it was totally different, and we're still not sure how long term will this approach be. So the dynamics of the market requires even a macro level analytics on the data side, which of course has a lot more dependencies. And what we've also seen from what probably the businesses have come up right now is destinations are competing now. So gone are the days where hotels and brands used to compete. Hey, there's a hotel next door, or maybe there's a resort, 5 kilometers away from my property, but it's luxury and that's my competitor. No, travelers have a lot more choice, and with the changing rules, the changing dynamics, there is still a lot more pent up. I mean, because they've been exposed to more domestic, they've been exposed to more immediate regional kind of destinations. So here, I think that the options are wider, which means there's a lot more that's gone up to first bring them back here. or bring them back to the destination first and then bring them to the hotel, which also includes a lot more on the content play, because there's a lot more research happening on descriptions, on policies, because that defines their motives, right? If I'm traveling with my pet or I'm traveling solo and also carrying my laptop with me, there is a different motive and intention. So all that has gone in that digital experience journey of that traveler. And then driving that data to action again becomes a lot more easy if you've got those components handy with you, because that also brings your departments together. That also brings the value proposition and content which appeals to that source market or the changing source market sub market segment traveler, and then drive that distribution and content to bring them and book as well. So I think there's a lot more gone here. Plus, I think on the brand visibility also, there's a lot more play on campaigns, which again appeal to that persona of that source market. So that's something which will drive conversions to make it a lot more profitable now. It's become complex, but of course, the need of the hour is if all this comes together in a seamless manner with the right integrated tech stack, real time, forward looking, it's of course a lot more dependable with these.
Absolutely. So what I would really look into here, it's personalization that's already started at the booking journey itself, right? So Anupriya said that personalization has moved out from butler service to in hotel, but this has taken form of personalization, right? So you're getting ads on demands of areas that you may have searched for and things. So the thought process starts right from there, and that's where the booking journey really flows through. And that's when the whole personalization kicks in, right? And having said that, it ties into something that Anupriya also said at the start, was the ever evolving journey, right, of the client, of the guest. And having said that, so I'll move back into the hotels and just take a peek into how has the role of the front desk evolved with all of this, right? We understand the market strategy, how that's evolved outside the hotel, the things at play that are outside the hotel to get your guest in, right? But how have things changed once he's in there for the front desk, the guest relations? How have they evolved using tech all around?
So I think, the way how we used to communicate in our hotels like a decade back has changed to how we communicate with our guests like now. And again, a few weeks back when I was in one of our own hotels and I was trying to order something after a long day at work, there is no need for us right now to call up IRD, or if suppose it's busy hours, you wait for them to call you back, etc. It's very cool. Like you use a QR code and through the app, you kind of look into the menu, whatever is there, and you place an order. It's as simple as that. So it saves the hassle even on an associate front to, that there are, 10 calls ringing together and okay, there are so many orders and then you have to communicate it to the chef and then this whole turnaround time. Which leads to a lot of kind of bad guest experiences at times and not so good ratings from a service standpoint. But how simple by the use of just technology, which is like simply an air menu thing, it could be made much lesser complicated and communication could be seamless. So I think it is now made our hotels, whether it's guest relationships or whether it's F&B service, learn more to leverage on this technology rather than use of those manual processes that used to be there before. And I think they are adapting pretty well to it. The guests, also the associates.
Yep. So agile is what I would call it, right? Evolving and adapting is the words you've used there, right? Eventually, it's internal, external, technology itself, right? All the three verticals need to be agile. And let's jump into the tech vertical bit for, right? And when I say tech, I'll probably bring Murphy back on. Uh, Murphy, technology acquisition and technology strategic partnership, right? What are the outlooks and the advantages that you feel and that you may have seen while speaking with people of the industry around?
Brilliant. Thank you, Karan. Good question. And when you speak about technology, right, what first comes into your mind is about the speed, right, the quickness associated with it. And if I go back to what Anupriya has been saying over the last 30 odd minutes or 40 minutes, right, there's a central theme of quickness associated with it, right? The quick gratification in terms of loyalty, fastest fingers first in terms of competition, and the quick my butler service as well, right? So, coming back to your question, right, Karan, technology acquisition, partnership, these have been challenges which even technology companies have been dwelling over for a long time, right? Is this something that we should buy, or is this something that we should build on our own, right? So similar concerns do work with the hotel industry as well, because there's a lot of technology that has been ramping up in recent times as well, in terms of association with the hotels and the distribution networks and marketing channels and so on and so forth. So I would add one more mix over there. It's about the technology service as well, right? So obviously you can subscribe to some services like some of our partners here who are on the call as well, right? And the hoteliers would also confide is that there are services that you can, rather than acquire and build on your own, that you can subscribe to and use as well, which will really work benefits for you. Now, in terms of acquisition and partnership, right? If we focus on the acquisition part, right, we've seen larger amount of chains. There was a lot of talk about distressed sales from a property perspective over the last couple of years. But in terms of technology acquisitions, have you seen any bigger technology acquisitions between hotels and the technology companies? Maybe not, right? Possibly it is the bigger, larger hotel chains which are too large now, and maybe they don't want a service which is conglomerate of it. So there's not one technology company that will solve that. Or maybe the smaller chains which are just building up and scaling now. Their requirements are much more customized, so the partner valuation is significantly high that cannot be really equated to, right? So I think those are the challenges there. But one of the key things that needs to be tapped upon is the expertise. And that is where I believe the partnership between the hotel industry and the technology industry comes into play, okay? Because from hotels operations, you've got a lot of expertise there about managing the hotels, about planning, about operational forecasting and budgeting and so on and so forth as well. Whereas the technology company has got a lot of expertise there in terms of how we see while we were growing up, technology took about 10 years or a decade to change to the next level, whereas now it happens within 2 months, right? So are the hotel industry equipped enough to handle that kind of technology debt? Which will happen otherwise, if they do not scale themselves up from a technology perspective as well. So in that perspective, what I believe is that technology partnership between technology companies and the hotel chains are the ones which will be the most fruitful ones, because what they will then be able to do is tap into the appropriate expertise from each of those verticals and get into a win-win scenario where it makes it scalable for you, right? It ensures that it's a complete win-win situation for you, because you would, even if you look at our Indian market, right, there are big conglomerates which have a hospitality division, which have IT division as well. But do they make use of those services to create tools for automation and technology driving examples like how Anupriya pointed out? Maybe not, right? They look to a company or technology organizations which has been doing that period over time and scaling them, or let's say improving them with time as well. So I think that is the reason why I see that partnership is the way to go forward as far as the collaboration between these two verticals are concerned, which is where you would see most of the hotels also taking impact, or let's say taking advantage of the digital footprint that they have as well, to kind of use that along with in this collaborative partnership that I'm talking about.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, so it's pretty much having the best service provider at the right place, right? An array of technology service providers giving you the best that they do rather than one shoe fits all per se. And and I also like the last part that you spoke about, the digital footprint, right? Because that is something really, uh, it's it's the next thing that people really examine, right? You have carbon emissions and you have a digital footprint. So I will hold on to the digital footprint for a bit, but before that, talking about services and technology and partnering them, I'll move to Ram, right? Ram, do you look at Intel on services used and preferred by hotels? And any thoughts on how do you go ahead and how can packaging around that be made more guest friendly and profit effective, right? So this kind of combines into the profit element, into the guest element, and as well into the service element altogether, right?
I think, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
great. Yeah, sorry. So I think it's important for us. I mean, both Anu, Kamesh, and Murphy kind of pick this up in various areas of their conversation with the importance of the changing guests and what they are looking for extra. I mean, uh, what the guest was looking for pre-pandemic changed in the last 2 years, and I think the coming 6 months we'll see again a complete shift happening out there. So we have to change the way we were selling in the past, and again do a lot of unlearning. I think we did a lot of unlearning in the last 24 months, and we are continuing to do unlearning. So forget learning, we are actually unlearning strategies and trying to adapt as to hey, what's the customer looking for? Uh, the customer today, I think, has absolute power, absolute control on understanding what the hotel strategies are. I mean, a simplest example, just Google up a hotel name, you would see immediately right out there the entire next 30 days pricing strategy, right? What are the lowest rate pricing available? I mean, these are things which is immediately available for a consumer out there. Price comparison at their fingertips. I mean, 10 years back, we were talking about technology and how technology evolved. 10 years back, when you used to listen to that sweet sound of dial-up, or 15 years back, and waiting for it, the guest wasn't as educated as they were today. Today, all it takes is a simple Google search for them to totally understand where your hotel is positioned. And I think it actually works in our favor, which is where pricing right becomes all the more important because it's very easy for us to shift the demand over the dates that we want to shift it to. Because the consumer can clearly see that, hey, you know what, I'm willing to pay a premium for the dates I want to stay. But then, hey, if the hotel is available on a cheaper price on another day, it's a win-win for both the consumer and for us, right? And also the next question is, what is the guest looking for today, and what is it that we can sell to the guest to pay more share of a wallet? I think if you look at some of the star reports by STR, etc., simplest thing today, I mean, 6 months back or 8 months back, health and safety was the highest out there. Today, it still ranks on top, but not exactly on top because there's a lot of business plus leisure travel happening. Location is starting to play a much more important role. So I think that is something hotels need to capitalize on. Drive packages for the traveler to combine business and leisure out there. Uh, Value for money absolutely still there on top. I mean, you could charge the sky and the consumer will pay for it, provided they see that there is value for money. So I definitely have started seeing 5-digit ADRs come back to a lot of hotels across multiple cities and smiles back on a lot of revenue managers' face. Okay, that is what was missing for a long period out there. And of course, I mean, it's important for us to understand the guest profile, the repeat guest history, and use our CRM tools to, again, like I think it was you who made the statement, right? Target the right customer in the right channel using the products that they would like to use. Okay, that's the only way to consume. I mean, it's of no use selling a spa package to, I don't know, a regular business traveler or selling a business traveler rate to someone out there on a holiday, right? It's extremely important that your data is well segregated because at the end of the day, bad data in, bad results out, right? Bad strategies out. So your data quality needs to be of the highest quality out there.
Absolutely. And like rightly they said, right? Data's the new oil. So if your oil's premium, your output's premium, right? And so having said that, so it has a lot to do with digital footprint eventually, right? Like you spoke, that your Google searches, and back to what Murphy said. So I'll move back to Anupriya, right? Anupriya, what are the steps that you all are taking to connect the digital dots of a passenger journey eventually, right?
Right. So I think, when we talk about a digital journey for a particular guest, it has got like basically 5 steps. It's like I said, it starts even before arrival. It starts with booking and then arrival and then during the stay and then post stay. So and obviously we do see that there are a lot of tools, etc., which has been put into place to collect all the data. We have got some smart dashboards which are there into place, which tells us that how many days out is the guest actually booking, and what is the kind of length of stay which is there for a kind of guest or a particular segment of guest in any particular hotel. Now, obviously, once you look into this data, the best way to leverage upon it is to draw or chart out your experiences based on the length of stay, to put your pricing strategy basis your lead time that your particular tool is showing. So one way is to definitely utilize the technology to kind of grow your share, to grow revenue, to grow top line, and grow it through profitable channels like we spoke earlier. But the second part to it is also to identify, I mean, these technology, the different tools that we use is also to identify that which is the point where in guest experience there's a sort of fiction which is coming. A simple example, like, is my average wait time at the front desk during the peak hours in any of my business hotels, is it exceeding a certain number of minutes? If your tool says or your particular smart dashboard says yes, then how are you going to get into play your certain operational things which would ensure that the wait time gets reduced or changes into some kind of an experiences, so that the guest doesn't feel the pinch of waiting for really a room to get ready. So again, it has got like two parts pretty much. One is that how do you leverage the tools to gain more, and the second is how do you leverage on these tools to get that point where that friction is coming, which hampers guest experience, which you could improve to retain your loyalty.
Absolutely. So we you spoke about profitability there, right? And Murphy also spoke about the ever evolving and changing technology. Like a decade ago, it would a couple of years for technology or a new version to come out, whereas now it's a couple of months and you have a new version already out or new technology already out. So that brings me to the question about sustainability eventually, right? And I'll move to Kamesh for this one, right? Sustainability info ratings, okay, are these being tracked and used to the advantage alternatively, or is this yet in the education stage, or is it influencing market impact as of today?
That's a very good one, and that's my favorite too. In fact, that's something that I look at before even choosing my hotel or even a destination for that sake. So I think the last 2 years, and we've seen that as responsible travelers ourselves, as again, while we've got families and friends and all, we've traveled, we've explored some sustainable destinations while it was only that domestic exposure, right? That's given way to a lot more awareness about sustainability. The green impact of that experience has really gone there, and it's a basic need, and we are willing to pay more. If I talk about myself as a traveler, I understand that the for a hotel or a hospitality company, it's of course cost, investment, all of that, but it is definitely something that I'm willing to pay more as a traveler, and probably that's driven with the power of content. So all that hotels are doing, all those sustainable initiatives, also whatever detailed in terms of transparency has to come out there in form of content. It has to be visible to the traveler, and of course the scores are something that a traveler is looking at now a lot more than before. In terms of stage, which was your question, it is in the evolution stage here. It's upwards at present, and that will of course be consistently moving upwards as and when you've got those content or descriptions out there by the destinations and also by the properties there. So this is indeed here to stay and evolve further. It could have more components in the searches before the bookings are made, but this will be a lot more, because even the traveler now would like to contribute there and give it back. Wellness, all of that, we've spoken about it. We've seen that happen that was existent over the last 1 or 2 years, but this is now coming into action as well.
And I can definitely second that, right? So if I, just quickly, Karan, right? So just before our webinar today, one of the things which came on my feed was Accor's announcement about, about
Yeah.
how do they want to bring down the numbers, right? The carbon consumptions there, right? So that is a key one. So most of the European chains that you see have already recognized the importance that the guests are choosing sustainability information there, right? Even back home, right? Or go, if you go down to Southeast Asia now, right? There are guests who are checking whether, it's a better sustainable option if I go and stay at Maldives versus maybe in Indonesia, right? Maldives, everything is looking green, but there's a cost to pay to make it green, right? To get the guests there, to get all the amenities there, right? So that there are those conscious guests now, and those numbers are steadily increasing as to the, choosing where should I go next.
And this is again, I think we've all turned organic, and there is a lot more scope. I mean, in terms of even choosing our products there, this has led to this. So organic has actually evolved to sustainability here. That's a given. Yeah.
In fact, if I can just add one point out there, I think if you guys look at any of the studies that's coming up, be it from Expedia, Booking.com, Google, or even MXGBT, sustainability ranks right there on top. MXGBT says that most of their corporates are looking how ways at reducing carbon footprint. Booking.com and Expedia surveys say that consumers are looking for more sustainable options. And in fact, India is actually leading out there from sustainability. And there was another report, I think it was PwC, which said that young Indians are actually leading the charge out there. But the biggest challenge out there, and taking on what Kamesh said, is they don't know where to find the information. Lack of information and how to book it is actually becoming the key challenge. And of course, just to plug in the one of our brands, the sister brands, Beyond Green, which is completely focused on sustainability. I mean, the uptake out there globally in terms of sustainable hotels is immense. And I think it is going to carry on. I think COVID has taught us to be more sustainable, be more eco-friendly, and hopefully save the planet. And the summer is just reinforcing the belief we have in that.
Absolutely, and it's one of the points that all of you all echoed, right? That there's less content out there. It's not easy to find. It's like, yes, I have a tab that says pet friendly hotel and I get 10,000 options, but I don't think so that yet exists today. Yes, you may have options, but the options are limited, are not as vast as a pet friendly hotel, for example. And I guess that's where then I'd move again back to you, Ram, because you brought up that, yes, finding the data is not easy. So Google data sets, right? Insights, Google Analytics. There are thoughts. What are your thoughts around the pros and cons of that coming into play and the relevancy that it has towards sales and revenue management strategies, right? And it, like, we can also fold it into how we can use it to leverage sustainable products around the market as well, right?
So, Google, in the last, I think, year or so, we've all been looking at forward-looking data, right? More than looking at historical data, because business conditions have changed. And I think searches are one of the best indicators of forward-looking data that we get, right? Because the typical search could happen anywhere from 3 months, 6 months, or 3 days out, depending on what your destination is. And Google Trends, let me start off with Google Trends, because they kind of give you a great indication on what the search is happening. We just, Murphy just spoke about Maldives. I mean, just pick up Maldives, pick up any source market, say, for example, Russia, and you can see that sharp drop in searches that's happened from the Russian market into Maldives when you look at for travel. Uh, Also, Google Trends and destination insights for Google help you kind of understand what is a consumer searching for and from which source markets they're searching for. So that kind of helps us realign the marketing strategy accordingly. Uh, if using Google Trends and search patterns along with forward-looking data from anyone starting right from Demand AI, which Kamesh RateGain out there has, or Demand 360, or Forward Star from STR. When both are combined out there, I think you come up with one hell of a powerhouse of data out there. And lastly, of course, as revenue managers, I think it is very important for us to understand the user path on our website, because where is the user dropping off on the website? Because it's great. Most of the marketing efforts is driving in people to our website. But sometimes you don't just see the conversion happening. There could be 1,000 people visiting your website or 10,000 people visiting. But if you get only 2 conversions out there, then it's important to understand where is the consumer dropping off. Are they reaching to any pages which are reading to irrelevant data? Maybe there are in some of the hotels cases, I see that, you know what, I reach a page, but then I got to search as to how to make a booking for that particular offer. I reach a page, I see an offer, I click on it, but then it takes me to a whole entirely different set of rates. So, I think I was, Kamesh and me are having a chat on this the other day where I was saying, it's no longer a question of bridging silos of marketing, sales, and revenue. I think there's no more silos. It has to be one team out there, and all of them need to work hand in hand out there. And yep, Google datasets is the beginning of the search journey. I mean, the good old saying goes, irrespective of how the consumer makes a booking, the search always begins on Google. So I think that's the first part of your search journey out there.
Absolutely, and I like the fact that you brought on forward-looking data. So I'll touch upon that in a minute. But the other aspect that I really liked is, yes, ComSet is not the only data you look at. Now it's consumer set data as well that really folds into your day-to-day revenue management strategy as well. And that's why Google Analytics, Google Trends, and Google datasets really help you, right? It's all available at fingertips. And yeah, I really like the point about the whole user experience on a website that can either convert a guest to be a loyal one or can convert him never to come back, right? And he'll be like, yeah, the website's crap, sorry, but I'm not going to come back. And looking at forward-looking data sets, right? So I'll move on to Murphy. Murphy, forward-looking data sets like airlines, case studies, and the impacts that we've looked at, right? And Ram also spoke about it. So it's there's somewhere that the industry is accepting it, given that we do not have a good representative historical data, right? And nobody knows what the new normal yet looks like, because we're yet in the transition phase, as I would call it. So what are the challenges that you feel that would come along with it?
Excellent question, right? And I think it ties down to what Ram was speaking about in terms of forward-looking data. And you brought about a good point within your question as well, right? It's primarily because of the relevance of the historical data, right? As much as we see, as much as we've seen over the last couple of years, we have understood that, when we have to look forward, right? I was just speaking to some hoteliers earlier today, and was trying to inquire with them, how far are you forecasting into nowadays, right? So the generic answer that I got from 3 of them was about 30 to 90 days, right? So gone are the days when you're forecasting about a year out and so on and so forth. So now, traditionally, right, when you think about forward-looking data, one of the things that really comes back, to my mind is hindsight, right? Hindsight is always clearer. Hindsight is always sharper, or let's say more. And it's for one particular reasons why I say it is very clear, right? Because it is based upon facts, right? So when you look back, there are facts, and so that is what I will use as a linchpin when I look at forward-looking data as well, right? So when you look at forward-looking data, it is important. I'm a firm believer that you should look at facts when you look at forward-looking data, right? You should be looking at, Ram and Kamesh rightly pointed out about data about, what the Google Analytics and so on and so forth. So those present to you the facts, right? I breathe in and breathe out forecasting. But if you ask me to bring another third party's forecast and use that along for one of my forecast engines, I would shy away from doing that. That's because, again, goes back to my firm belief that you should look at facts when you look at forward-looking data. So, we've got bunch of data. Technically speaking, big data, as we call it, is what is available for the hotel industry outside, right? But what's important is that you funnel them out. You filter them out to seeking the relevant data set, as Ram was also rightly pointing out just minutes back, right? So we need to bring that relevance, or let's say try and draw some parallel as to what is my business requirement versus what is the forward-looking data that I'm looking at, right? So for example, I may be in a location where I have hardly any competition. So should I look at the competition data at that point of time? Absolutely not. I may be in a location where the incoming flights to my city does not really impact my business, right? Because they are possibly flying out to somebody else because there's no direct destination, direct flights to the onward destination. So should I be looking at Google Flight at that point of time? Maybe not. But the other destination could possibly look at this particular data and get some relevance out of it, right? So I think that is where we need to understand as a hotel, for your market, for your product, what is it that matters to you, right? Maybe the rest of the hotels surrounding you bank a lot on the MICE business, but your product is not for MICE. So, looking at the data of MICE inquiries out in the market, is that going to really help you from a forward-looking data perspective? No. So I think, to my point is that you spoke about data being the oil, or some people call it as gold, right? So not all data is gold, right? You need to choose what is it that is of strict relevance for you, and you will find a lot of case studies out in the market, positive, negative, speaking about why one set of data set is more important than the others, and so on and so forth. I'm guilty of saying that. I've also had some of those papers as well, but I would really advise all my hotelier friends is to not fall into a trap of what we call as the confirmation bias, right? Generally, in our personal lives as well, we tend to do that, right? Where we have a certain assumption about a particular forward-looking data set, and we look for studies and case studies which confirm to that. Stay away from that. Listen to some neutral advice. Feel free to reach out to any one of us on the panel as well to give you some of those. But yes, having a good data set is not the end of it. What is really crucial for you to ask is, does it really matter to me, right? So, that's the tech point that I will really stress. Your second part, just let me quickly touch upon it, is also about the validity, right? So maybe I'll not just dwell in. Maybe let me pick that up later in one of the other in the next session. But yes, the question is, does the forward-looking data really matter to you? If that answer is yes, go for it.
Absolutely. And there were a lot of points that you spoke about, right? Good data, data being gold, and all data is not relevant to you, right? So that brings me to one of the questions that our attendees have really asked us, right? What they say is that there's been a tech evolution, and we see it now in the industry, and they talk about a host of all of these tools that give you all of this data around it. But how can we get the same tech or these AI and machine learning to help us navigate through all this sea of data to really make sense out of it, right? So you have all of this data available, but how do you go ahead and make sense to, okay, what is really relevant or not relevant? And it's not to anyone in particular, but yes, it's open for all our panelists to really answer on this one, but I thought it's relevant to this point here.
I think it's a
So
great question, and I feel, see, you may have a lot of data pool with you, but what really matters is what stage of recovery or what year are you actually operating at. Like, for example, if I'm a revenue director in 2019, I would look at the pool of data that was there for 2018 and 2017 to draw comparison so as to project what my next 12 months would look like. But as we know that we are today at a certain month where recovery numbers are looking very positive, the signs are looking very healthy. And definitely, you can't draw a comparison of an April, May, June, taking again a cue from the thing that we're just projecting for next 90 days and not far out. So you can't like give it a comparison to 2021 or 2020. So the best set of data that you could pick up now for a May, June would be the latest 2 months that have just gone by. So if I have to project, I would really check is my number pacing the similar way how it was in March and Feb. I would really not go back to any other years to go back. So I think what I'm trying to say is that it really depends. What kind of year are you operating on, and what is the phase? Is it like a post-pandemic recovery? Or is it a totally normal, stable year, good 6 months after which, after the recovery? The second thing I think is also very important. Having 10 different tools and 10 different data sets is very good. I mean, your work is actually started, but what you really do, and what you analyze and get after looking at those data sets really depends on your art on how you can put forward that complicated data in a simple format. I mean, usually, the feedback that I see when we go for any stakeholder meeting or any of the meetings or in any of the top line meeting forum is that sometimes we try to put too much data, try to analyze too many things. I think the art today is how to make that complex thing look simpler for a simple person who is a non-revenue person or somebody who's a completely different department. He also makes sense and he also gets kind of motivated that, yeah, I think what she's saying is great. It all makes sense. It's so simple. Let's do this. So, yeah.
So
Yeah, I
simple
think,
on the face value. Sorry,
Yeah.
Ram.
yeah, I think the good news is we have a lot of data available. The bad news is we have a lot of data available that we don't know what to do with it. And I mean, like I think Buffy, you are saying that what data is a new oil, and taking on what Anu said, I think analytics is the new refinery that we have. Otherwise data is nothing but just crude, right? You can't run a car with pure oil that you just mined off, and it's very important that you know what is the story you want to find out from this data. We can all get we can all drown on data. There's so much of data available that we don't know what to do with it, but it's very important to pick up what is the relevant story that the data is saying out there and put it in a way that what the core audience to whom this makes sense understand it so that a strategy can be built around it. I think that's what is the most important thing today out there.
And I'll add the action component there. So data which is actionable. I mean, to Anupriya's point, exactly like the stack should be in the flow, seamless and actionable also, because we're using and consuming data to drive a strategy which can be actioned. That's very critical here. So of course, and of course, with the current dynamics, the global dynamics, of course, it's going to get a lot more complicated on understanding the source markets or even the behavior of the traveler. Because like in what Murphy mentioned, for example, even if it's a destination resort which has no competitor, the competitor could be another destination for that property. So that again could be another data point, so that the same traveler who can drive or fly can be attracted through campaigns targeted. So there's lot many ways to look at data specific to the action that we want to drive. End result, of course, is about profitable customer acquisition. That's the critical path that we want to achieve here.
Absolutely. So I like the couple of things. The way Ram put it, right? Data being the oil and analytics being the refinery, and the way you put it on it being actionable, right? And staying with you, Kamesh, and staying with the topic of data. So we see a lot of estate level data surfacing, right? And then that begs the question is in-house tools versus technology solutions to be the refinery for that estate level data surfacing, right? What are your thoughts on this?
If I'm just talking from a hotelier's point of view, of course, hotels are known for service, creating that perfect experience, personalization. I'd probably suggest that leave it to the expert, leave the technology to the experts, because we invest in that technology, we improvise that, and we're also looking at the larger scheme of things, which brings and complements the flow, which is the people component, as well as what technology blends together and brings people together in a hotel. So of course, I would say that it should be a good balance, again, with an agile technology provider and integrated tech stack, which eases out the flow in order to adapt and act faster to the dynamic market changes, because it will remain dynamic. It will not be you can't envision what's going to be happening after 6 months. It keeps changing. You need that technology provider who's expert in that path, and also makes your job easy, and also probably maybe even brings back some of the operational staff to even create that perfect physical experience also for the customers.
Absolutely, and I like the thought, right? Leave it to the experts to really come down and do their job while the hotel manages the guests that they're the best suited to do. And talking about guests and hotel managing the guest, right? I moved to Ram because you brought up a point about loyalty, right? So talking about how has loyalty trends and concepts changed since the pandemic, and have you actually kept this in sight? Do you feel there's a change?
Okay, so two things out there. The first thing I always tell people, to all the hotels, that you know what, customers are loyal to the brand. Customers are not necessarily loyal to the channel. If customers were, I mean, that's true not just for hotels, for every product that we buy. If customers were loyal to the channel, then people like Amazon wouldn't exist. When we are buying a phone, we always buy it on Amazon or other channels, right? Because it's cheaper out there. So, you know, price integrity, price parity, allowing the consumer to believe that booking direct gets them the best deal is of prime importance out there. I think loyalty from, if you look at from a pure hotel point of view, I think it's going to become all the more important for us because I'm looking at it a year out from now actually, because as Google starts eliminating the cookie technology out there, you know, when they start telling us that, hey, you know what, you can't chew on your cookies any longer, I think we're going to rely a lot on first party and zero party data, right? And zero party data will become extremely important because what's zero party? Zero party is what consumers or guests are sharing intentionally with a brand because they're getting something else. And who are the consumers who would share that with you? Most probably your loyalty customers, right? You have a lot of information out there, which helps you understand what are they looking for. So I think when you start looking at loyalty, we need to start approaching it not just from what's happening today, but hey, where are we going to end up in a year from today? Uh, I think the loyal, or I mean that customer of today who is looking to book you is actually looking no longer for four walls and a ceiling. I mean, we have all been stuck behind four walls and a ceiling for the last couple of years. So I think they're looking for more authentic, more exclusive, and more flexible experiences as a loyal customer. And I think the loyalty customers deserve the fact that they get a more exclusive benefit by for the reasons of sharing their data. I think I actually posted this on LinkedIn. Sometimes all we do to our loyal customer is wish them a happy birthday every year. That's about it. I mean, that's not why we are collecting their data, right? It is to create a lot more personalized experience, and which is where I think the refinery, the analytics come into play. You know, how can we provide a more personalized experience to those guests by using this loyalty? And of course, loyal customers, like we said, are looking a lot towards sustainable climate change. We are seeing this with our travelers right now. You know, the requirement our I4 members, which is the loyalty program, they are looking a lot towards more sustainable hotels that are looking towards protecting the environment. And why is loyalty more important? Because loyal customers will stay longer with you. Loyal customers will spend more with you. And I think Kamesh made that point. Cost of acquisition. Cost of acquisition of the loyal customer is actually a lot more easier. It's much more easier to get retain a guest than it is to source a new one. So I think putting all of this together, I think loyalty becomes a key strategy for us as a revenue generation team to focus on.
And I'll just add a very, very strong point, Ram. What has changed for a loyal customer? Like I'm putting myself as that guest who's loyal to your brands. So what has changed also is that digital experience now. So we used to always look at the physical, the service experience. Now there is a lot more kind of expectation on the digital experience itself. That should be able to speak, be transparent, win them back, invite them back, and get them all the information around sustainability, the content they require to kind of course, them also be the brand ambassadors and bring more loyalists back here.
True. And staying to the point of cost of acquisition, right? That's the other battle that hotels are having is A, retaining and increasing the pie of loyalty. And the other one is that they're really driving hard is the direct business piece, right? Because it's the cheapest if you get the direct business rather than other channels and sources. And on this piece, right, I move to Anupriya. How has technology really assisted with direct drivers for business here?
Yeah, and actually with this question, I feel I'm a part of one of the owners meeting and somebody is asking me that, tell me how do you grow your shares from the channel which has got the lowest cost. So yeah, thank you for that. But jokes apart, I think this is one thing that comes up seriously, honestly, everywhere in most of the meetings. And there are two parts to it. One is, of course, the loyalty part that Ram had covered before, and I think he pretty much covered everything. But there was just one point that I wanted to put forward, that when you talk about loyalty, it just depends how successful your program is, based on what is that meaningful thing that you're giving across all the business segments. Meaning, you just can't have one set of common things across all the business segments that you have in the hotel. You just can't like give something which is very common. If you have somebody who's traveling with family, maybe you give some sort of experiences, value add-ons. If it's a business client, maybe you give them points which could be later on utilized in the umbrella of hotels for his personal stay. So it needs to be stitched based on what segment are you actually dealing with in any particular hotel. And the second point, which is the most important one to drive direct business, is how strong is your website, your own brand website. So I think we kind of did this exercise way back last year. We took this whole downtime to revamp our website. And once you do all those activities to revamp your website, it's basically to drive two things. One is to drive traffic, which is through the digital investments that you make by reading up all the fancy Google Analytics report. And the second thing is that you kind of work, which is a continuous work throughout, to drive conversions and to lower your bounce rate in the website. So to answer your question, website and loyalty programs are the two things which you can really leverage on if you have to grow the direct business.
Absolutely. And I guess this ties into what Ram also said at the beginning, right? The whole entire experience of your UI being top notch so you can really convert, right? Somebody shopping to actually staying through. And while we're yet on the loyalty program, right, I'll move back to Ram here. Ram, there's been a lot of speak about subscription programs, right, where you can buy or get to a certain tier of loyalty, or you buy and you get member exclusive benefits, right? Subscription models for retention. What are your thoughts around this? There's been a lot of talk. We haven't seen much. There is a few examples that I'll talk about. Will be like Soho House. That's like a membership exclusive hospitality piece. But what are your thoughts first on the subscription piece?
So I think subscription exists almost all around us. Look at anywhere. I think subscription exists, right? Starting right from the simplest example where you pay a premium for getting some additional services, Amazon Prime subscription. You pay that small supplement in order to get free delivery, next day delivery, faster delivery, faster deals, etc. So I think that's a simplest example of subscription. I know some of the hotels are looking for at the subscription model. We have some chains in India who have tried it. Internationally, I think Citizen M tried it. Inspirato, which is a luxury travel company, they tried doing this, etc. I think the reason why many of us are, especially in the last 24 months, tried doing this is because at the end of the day, a subscription program locks in customers, right? And increases profit for us. It has immediate cash in the bank out there. And speaking of, I mean, it was a trend. Many of us tried to cash in on the trend, try to get more cash in the bank, but so for some it worked, for some it didn't work. I believe that, look, subscription. It's my thought out here. I think the subscription model, as far as travels would go, might take a step back because the subscription model existed or became very popular in the last 24 months because the so-called digital nomads work from anywhere. That concept was kicking in pretty hard. So, people wanted to take advantage of staying anywhere at any of these chain hotels by paying a flat fee. Now that life hopefully is seeing some semblance of normalcy with a lot of welcome back to office starting it, maybe these things will take a step back. But hey, you know what? That Soho concept that you spoke about, it's a very interesting concept, something which might catch fire pretty fast as well, especially given the trends.
Absolutely. And I guess this also ties into one of the points you mentioned about being loyal and being a member gives you exclusivity, right? And that is what Soho does, right? Soho is an all exclusive members only hospitality chain across the globe. They've got one in Mumbai where either you, if you remember, or your guest, provided you're being there, are allowed in there. So it's a members only entry. And yeah, so I feel that may seem to eat into direct business or loyalty business somewhere down the line because of the exclusivity it has. Do you reckon?
To be quite honest, the concept of Soho is there's honestly nothing new about it, right? I
Yeah.
mean, Delhi Golf Club, 100 years back, I don't know, whatever it is, exclusive membership clubs have always existed. Like I say, it's like the circle of life in business. New becomes old, old becomes new again. So that's what we are all going out there. I mean, in for today's generation, or for many of us, I think what they're capitalizing is two things. One is the Instagram generation, or I mean, I sound old when I say it, but yeah, it is for you to show that, hey, this is where I am, this is what I have access to. So it's a great way to do that. Number two, it capitalizes on the self-actualization needs. If you go into our good old theory of Maslow, I mean, ultimately, hey, I made it. I got an access into an membership-only club. Especially with remote working and with hybrid offices coming back in place, it's a great area to work in rather than it's an exclusive working environment. It's a exclusive environment for people to stay and work out of rather than having to work out of co-working areas or out of a Starbucks, etc. But the thing out there with Soho is it's exclusive. It is targeting it's targeting a small market. Scaling it up is going to be a big challenge. How will they scale it up to a bigger thing? Because it's like the iPhone, right? As a gadget geek, there is only so much of population who would be able to buy an iPhone Pro or an iPhone. You would need an iPhone SE to target a cheaper market. And out there, you still have the Androids of the world which beat them hand down, right? So how do you scale this particular Soho concept? Is going to be a big challenge for them to get into.
Correct. And and yet going on to this, because one thing that Soho does is, and I'll stay on this point for the last time here, what Soho does is if you look at their marketing content, they really target people under 30, right? They've got different offers for if you're under 30, whereas different offers for under above 30. So they're pretty much targeting millennials or Gen Z, rather not millennials, but Gen Z, because and the people that have that kind of disposable outcome that they can go ahead and put in, right? Do you think that is something that hotels can also tap into?
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, I mean, like we all say, today's generation is looking for experiences, right? So by creating a experience-based package, by creating a member-only exclusive experience, I think for sure there is a market that hotels can tap into, and that ties back into loyalty. Does a subscription need not necessarily be something that you pay for? Subscription could be something that you earn, by putting in a certain set of revenue stays, multiple hotels, etc. And you pay by using the product instead of paying cash upfront. So, can there be exclusive experiences which is given only upon achieving certain things? Currently we are all stuck with the normal upgrade, normal Wi-Fi, normal late checkout, etc. But maybe taking inspiration from Soho, it can be adapted. You know.
Absolutely. Super. And keeping an eye on the time, I'll go around to this one last question and I'll bring Kamesh up on the board here, right? Kamesh, we've spoken a lot on technology, the business intel. Uh, so my last question, right, would basically be to sum it up is, yeah, technology and business intel on both the sides of the counter, right? How is it really helping shape up the market right there?
So it's of course, I think in a single line, it's helping hoteliers. Of course, if I just think of hoteliers here in the forum, it helps hoteliers adapt and act faster to the new market changes. And of course, the A word continues before, which is agile technology. That's important.
Absolutely. This takes me to a forum that we did a couple of seasons back that was primarily around agile, right? So very relevant topics. Agile was relevant then a year and a half ago. Agile, I think it's going to be relevant for the years to come. And with that, I would call it wraps. It was wonderful speaking to all of you, and I will hand it back to Rakesh, who will summarize and close this for us. Thank you, all panelist members. It was wonderful speaking with you and grilling you the way I would say it.
Thank you so much. This is wonderful talking with all of you and exchanging ideas out there. Thanks a ton.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all. You were all good, and thank you everyone.
Absolutely, a lot of food for thought.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Karan. Right on time. It was indeed a wonderful discussion with many takeaways regarding how technology and data can be used to drive strategies for profitable customer acquisition. However, I believe the key takeaway is to move with the times and adapt to technology because the industry is highly competitive and those who do not adapt will be left behind. Having said so, I would like to thank Ram, Anupriya, Kamesh, and Murphy for sharing interesting insights and making this event a success. I would also like to thank all the attendees for taking the time to join the session today. Thank you, everyone, and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Bye.
Bye.